Today we're going to learn about the artist Jim Dine. He is a contemporary artist, also known for his pop art. And in 2023, he is currently 87 years old and lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. So let's take a look at some of Jim Dine's art. What is pop art? So you want to think about pop art is what is popular today, something that people can recognize and immediately know what it is. And it started in the 1950s and it continues to today. It began in the United Kingdom and the United States. And it's basically, the reason is to emphasize the ordinary parts of culture that are often, not really looked at or seen. So you usually see a lot of this shown in advertisements and commercial designs, as well as some of the techniques to exaggerate things, repeat things like repetition and pattern. You'll notice that this is used a lot in comic books and, like I said, in movies and advertisements. So he was born in 1935 on June 16th. He's an American painter, sculptor. He also works in printmaking, illustration, performance artist, stage design, and poet. So he has a lot of things. You might notice some of his work that he's really known for as well in his hearts. So he does a lot of different mixed medias and really plays in there. And again, the repetition, the pattern, the color, in order to make the hearts stand out. You will also notice he uses a lot of what's common for him, such as tools. So the sizes of his work are larger, again, and you'll be able to come across them and see them. So what we're going to be looking at today is looking at how he creates his paintbrushes. We're going to be doing our very own still life and using tools that we ourselves use a lot in art. But we're going to take a look at some different paintbrushes, maybe certain ones you've used or have never used and will someday use. So your tools are important to you too. And this is a way to express yourself through your art. So these are his images that are inspiring us today in our very own paintbrushes. So he's trying to create them in the life size that you would come across and see them on, as well as even larger. So today we're going to try our best to make it the right size for us. Now that we've learned a little bit about Jim Dine, what we're going to do is take a look at the handout I gave you that has the different paintbrush illustrations and paintbrushes that you might find around you. So on your paper, I want you to try to draw at least 5 life-size paintbrushes on your paper. And if that's really difficult to do, that's okay too. But you could look at these images and just try your best to make them large to your best of your ability. Another option, if you really need it, is you can also take paintbrushes that you have around the house and you can look at them and do a still life that way. You could even have it where you put it on your paper and you try to trace a little bit around it. So you can always do that. It's not as easy, but you think about it and you look at those lines and how everything works and comes together. So see here, I've got my paintbrush and then I'm looking at, okay, there's other lines on here. I can see that there's a curve. So I'm going to draw a curve here. And there's a lot of hairlines, so I'm just going to add in some lines to make it look like it's got that. Again, I've got the curve, so I'm going to do that. There's 2 of them. And then this part here is the rubber part, and right here there's another one, like such. So you could go in, you could even add a line if you wanted to, just to add in some of these other features that I see on this paintbrush. So there's my first one. I can also turn this one a little bit, or it could be straight, it could go up higher, it could go lower. It's really up to you. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm tracing this one. then I look back at it, try to see what lines I see in it. All right, so now I've got 2. I want to add 3 more, and I'm going to change them up. So I'm going to look at my paper here and try to come up with a few more different ones. I really like that fan looking paintbrush, so I'm going to start with what looks like a rainbow. And then it has these lines that come in. And then I'm going to do a rainbow to connect it and add in some little line marks so it looks like a paintbrush. Then I'm going to do a curve, almost like a neck kind of curve going in, and a little bit of a line. This one I'm going to do my upside down rainbow, and I'm going to do a letter M on this side, and I'm going to make it nice and long. Kind of have it like that. So I've got 3, 2 more. I want to do a large one over on this side, I think. I'm thinking of one of those big brushes. So I'm going to do a nice wide like this. I'm going to come up on an angle. Remember, these are kind of like sketches at first, and that's okay. Made my letter V, across, come down. Again, you can do your own version. You can skip past me drawing this and just come up with your own. This poor paintbrush looks like it's gone through a lot. All right, so I've got 4. I'm going to do 1 more. And I'm thinking I might do one of the brushes that has the angle, because I usually enjoy painting with this type of brush too. Once you're done with your 5, you can even add 7, you're going to take out your Sharpie and you're going to trace all of your drawing with the Sharpie. So once you've got this all done, you've got a couple options. The next thing I want you to do is try using your pencil, or you can, even if you have an oil pastel at home, that's another option if you wanted to. Even a crayon, you push dark and light. You're going to cast a shadow on one side of your paintbrushes. So as you can see here, there's one side that there is a shadow, and then after that, we're going to add in the paint. So we want to do this in order to make it look 3-dimensional. So usually you can either use an oil pastel or a pencil. You push really hard to the start, and then you go softer, as you can see here. Just kind of moving it around. You go dark the closer it is, and then lighter and lighter. We've practiced this before, but as you're doing it, remember we did our little tornadoes at first where you're moving only your hands. So then this time you push harder, and then you start lifting the pressure of your hands, and you make this cool tornado. And then you can smudge it. So remember, your finger gets nice and smudgy, even this one, and it creates a really cool shadow. So as I go down with this, I'm going to push hard, and then I'm going lighter. And remember, you don't want a very sharp pencil as you're doing this, because you don't want to make it too dark or make it where you can see this is nice and soft. A sharp pencil is going to show a really dark line and push into your paper, and you want to control your pencil. So here's showing you what the pencil one looks like. I'm going to just bring the shadow down a little bit like this, even in here. Okay, I might get a little bit on some of these. Get a little up here. Okay. And now I can take my finger and I can kind of smudge it and create this cool shadow effect. So that just helps make my paintbrush look like it's standing out. You can also use another tool like an oil pastel, and I can push a little harder. There are graphite pencils that others can use too. So if you're using an oil pastel, you'll do it nice and close like this, and then you again can smudge it out. And that also gives that contrast that you're looking for. You want to see that change to make it look like it's popping out and standing out. So you choose however you want. Go forward, add in some of those things. You can always make your shadows farther out. It's up to you. So I went in and I added in the oil pastel for mine for the video's sake, but your pencil will be just fine. There's other pencils that are graphite pencils that are darker. So as you can see, this is a soft HB, like a 2 HB pencil. You can get softer ones that are the Bs that go up to a higher number, and that means it just barely touching, it has a lot of the pencil comes off and is super dark and soft. And then if you ever get any pencils that only have the letter H on it and they go up to a higher number, that means they're harder. And as hard as you push with your pencil, only a very light color comes out. So the next step in this is we are going to be needing our spray bottles to get, or a cup of water, and you are going to use your bag that you have and markers so we can splatter some paints all over, just like Jim Dine. For this part, I want you to think about your composition, you know, your whole. Right now it feels pretty balanced, and as you start adding in your paint and your markers, you're going to notice that it's going to feel maybe heavy of paint over in here and lighter over here. So what I want you to do is, you know, since we're not using watercolors you might find in the classroom, we're going to use our markers. And this is another great technique just to get it wet the way you want. Watercolor, liquid watercolor is another great option, basically anything. So here, there's two options. I can put marker on my plastic bag, or I could do some marker directly on my paper, like you can see here. So you want to put your marker or the paint where the paintbrushes are, as if they're painting on the paper, and then you get to spread it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my baggie wet, and I'm going to then take my paint, and I can do this where I can spread my paint all over on here like such. So here I've got this one, it's painting. You know, if I wanted to, I can even wet my paper a little bit and get it this cool extra effect. You can just have water in a cup, and you can also spread, you know, the darker part of the marker here. My other favorite thing is to go in and get this super wet, and then I'm going to get this and then you tap it. So as you tap it, you're going to start getting splatters all over your paper. Remember, we're using washable paint, so it's all good. It's not going to, if it gets on anything, just wipe it off. But the tapping part lets you be able to get a lot of this on here. So go through as you're doing it, wipe off with a Kleenex your baggie, and start adding in all your other colors until you feel that your composition is complete.